Hello, Chris. Welcome to the Wellness Lab podcast. Happy to have you here. And the topic today at hand, I know you have lots of experience, but we're going to focus on how diet and light play a role in mental health. So, before we dive into the conversation, I would like to pass it over to you to provide us a quick overview on your background and any major highlights you want to share with the audience.
Yes, I'm Chris Aiken. I'm a psychiatrist, been in practice about 25 years, and I also edit a psychiatric update journal called the Carlat Psychiatry Report, which stands out uniquely as it's the only one of the only journals that does not accept pharmaceutical industry support. So we get to cover a lot of topics outside the usual commercial interests, and diet and light are certainly two of those.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for letting us know. And regarding specifically the idea or the situation of how diet can impact our overall feeling, specifically on like a depression state, can you please let us know what have you found throughout your practice and what is the impact on a mood perspective?
Yeah, to start with, this is not a message that food is a drug. We know caffeine, alcohol, there are ways that food is a drug, and that's not what I'm talking about here. So, even chocolate, we sometimes get a certain kind of high out of chocolate that people do turn to in greater quantities when they have depression or stress. That's not what I'm talking about here. So, rather, this is more a message about what is good for your body is good for your brain. And when your brain is healthier, you feel better. So that's where the research started. We have this thing called the blood brain barrier that very much protects the brain from any kind of danger that we can think of. Some things get through it, like viruses, inflammation, but mostly it's pretty tight. So for years, we thought that the brain was not affected by diet, with a few exceptions, like if you deplete people of vitamins, they get depressed. But we now know differently. For example, the brain is fed by a rich vasculature of blood vessels, and if those aren't healthy, you're going to get depressed. It We now know that a lot of depressions, particularly after the age of 55, are caused by vascular disease. This isn't like a stroke, like you would know that it happened, but what they sometimes call a silent stroke or small vessel ischemic disease. They show up as little dots on the MRI that are barely noticeable and look like normal age-related changes. Well, they are normal, but they're also destructive. So here's an example of that. We rarely see these kinds of numbers. If you have depression and you're over the age of 65, there's a 50% chance that there's a strong vascular component. If you're over the age of 75, it's a 100% chance. So these little insults to the brain are just one way, the way that diet affects blood vessel health. There's many other ways. Things in the diet might protect brain cells as antioxidants, and they call them flavanols. They're rich in blueberries. And another way is that some dietary ingredients do help the brain make the neurotransmitters that it needs to function. We've also learned that the body affects your mood. So if you have, for example, an unhealthy gut microbiome and you don't have the right bacteria in your gut, you get more depressed because those bacteria are communicating to the brain through the vagus nerve that goes down the center of the body and through other chemical signaling. In fact, those bacteria act like tiny neurotransmitter factories producing serotonin and dopamine. So all kinds of ways that we've expanded our view of mental health from thinking of it as a brain problem to a whole body problem. And that is where diet comes in. The first studies came out in 2017. Now, the investigators, they thought it might help a little bit. They were actually quite surprised by how well it worked. It was nearly 3 times more effective than general counseling. So changing people's diets in a healthy direction made a big difference for their mood.
Thank you. Thanks for the insights. And I can think about it from a personal perspective that I find when I'm eating certain foods, my overall body feels different and it will impact, right? The way it will work for your function, in this case, your brain, and so on. So it totally resonates with what you say and makes total sense. And one of the things that I was looking beforehand was on your website, you have lots of material that could be supportive for anyone interested in learning. We're going to share it below. There's a specific section you have that talks about nutrition and this antidepressant diet. So
Yes,
I
let's
see
go
there
over
you
that.
have the berries, but yeah, feel free to
This
enlighten
is
us.
I've really just lifted the diet from what was done in the first study, and they've replicated it in 3 other studies, all showing a large effect in depression when you shift your diet. So a couple things to know about this so-called diet. I say it's so-called because there's actually no calorie counting and no foods are strictly prohibited. So it's barely a diet. They wanted to make this easy. They're teaching this nutritional approach to people with depression who struggle to get out of bed. So it's got to be easy. And you should know that going into it, that it's not a difficult diet to follow. I actually follow it in order to write the book on it. I took it on myself. Um, well, it did the diet didn't come with a warning though, which I want to share people. If you do start the diet, it's hard to get off of because your body's no longer used to eating Krispy Kreme donuts and the like and fried chicken sandwiches. So now when I have those delicious things, I feel kind of sick and I feel that it feels harder. I don't think I have the right microbiome anymore that's accustomed to digesting that stuff. So it has changed me as well, and I've ended up sticking with it just because I feel better on it. Now, some things to know about it. The buildup is steady over 4 to 8 weeks. It's not quick, but I think you can take this tip as you look to what you eat. Stop thinking about how you feel when you eat it, how food tastes on your tongue, and start to move your mind to think about how am I going to feel 2 or 3 hours later? Am I going to be dragging and sluggish, or am I going to be motivated and driven and clear thinking after I eat this salad or this double cheeseburger? And it's very similar to a diet that's already recommended number one for general health. They borrowed it from a diet that was good for the heart and good for metabolism. That's the Mediterranean diet. So all this is the Mediterranean diet with some brain superfoods sprinkled in, superfoods like berries and dark green vegetables. So if you'd like, I can step people through the foods that they eat on it and that they eat less of.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and that's on my website if you want to read more, chrisaikenmd.com/, antidepressant diet is a free booklet on it. So there's 3 types of foods. Foods to eat more of. These are things that you can enjoy in abundance. They're all good for the brain and the body. Foods to eat in moderation. These are things that if you Google them, like say eggs, Google are eggs good for your health? Half the links are going to say they're bad for your health, and half the links are going to say they're good for your health. The answer to that is they do some good, but we don't want to have too much of them. They do good in smaller quantities. And the final category is foods to shy away from. You can have them a little bit, but you want to minimize that. So the foods to enjoy in abundance are fruit, particularly berries, vegetables. Dark green vegetables are really good for the brain. They're rich in folate. But the goal here is to get a variety of colors because every different color on fruits and vegetables indicates a different brain healthy flavanol ingredient. Beans, any kind of beans are fine. Fish, any fish are fine. Particularly brain healthy is salmon. Nuts, seeds, and olives. And here, any kind of nut, peanuts count, whatever you want for nuts. In fact, if you want to grind them up and make a nut spread like they do at the grocery stores, that's fine as well. If you want to buy a pre-made nut spread like peanut or almond butter spread, yeah, you can buy it too. No big deal. Just try to get something with less salt and sugar and preservatives in it, less processing. Whole grains. This is the only part of the diet I found hard to follow. It's a little confusing. So there's not good labeling on what is a whole grain. You'll see breads that say made with whole grains. That just means they sprinkled a few on it. It doesn't count. You'll see products that say wheat bread. That's not whole wheat bread, though. or brown breads. That's not what it's about. It's not the color. Even pumpernickel is not a whole grain. So whole grain means that we've whole grain means that we're giving you the entire grain, not stripping away the healthier outer portion of it. The same logic applies with fruit. You may know that it's better to eat the whole fruit than to drink the fruit juice because we've stripped away a lot of the healthy stuff. So that's what whole grains are all about. The way to find them is look for the 100% whole grain stamp. It's an orange stamp on many labels. They don't all have it though. Or look on the ingredients. And is the first ingredient a whole grain, like whole wheat, whole barley, whole corn, whole something? Maybe the first ingredient after water sometimes. All right, the next one is extra virgin olive oil. This is particularly brain healthy. It has antioxidants and nutrients in it, and it's good for the blood vessels as well. And we want it to be extra virgin for the same reason we want whole grains, because it has those extra antioxidants in it. Now, some people think extra virgin olive oil is fragile and it can only be used on salads, but there are studies showing it's actually safer than other oils for most cooking under 450 degrees purposes because those antioxidants protect it from all the denaturalization that produces unwanted chemicals when you fry. All right, so those are the things to eat more of and enjoy this diet. Don't get too bogged down. And should you have dried fruit or fruit juice or canned vegetables or frozen vegetables or fresh vegetables, just get what's practical and what you like, because they did not limit people in this research to what form they got. They just want it to be easy and fun and taste good. Moving to the next category, we get into fruits, and there, well, I'm sorry, we've already covered that. Moving into the next category, we get into foods to eat in moderation. And here we just have chicken and poultry, lean red meat, eggs, and dairy. And to make it simple, it's about one serving of each of these. So one serving of meat, lean red meat or chicken or poultry, one egg, one glass of milk a day. So you still can enjoy all of these. And our final category is foods to eat less of. And these are fried foods, fast foods, processed foods, sweets, simple sugars, simple carbs. That's not the whole grains. Sodas, processed meats like bacon and sausage and deli meats, and most condiments like mayonnaise and ketchup and other things we get in bottles. Mustard's a little healthier. And if you're going to get pre-made foods, packaged foods, I should say, in the middle of the grocery store, just go for stuff that has the lowest amount of added sugar, the lowest amount of salt, and the lowest number of processed chemicals. And that'll help you eat with ease and stay healthier. There is an app, if you want to get in more detail, that's free, called Open Food Facts. And you can scan any barcode in the grocery store and it'll tell you how processed it is. So in that long list, I said, stay away from processed foods. But like, what does that mean? Technically, canned tomatoes are processed, but they're not highly processed. So we're really looking to minimize the highly processed foods. And what are these foods? They are the foods that are going to try to convince you in the grocery store that they're not processed, because the word has gotten out that people don't live as long, they get cancer, they get depression with processed foods. It's one thing that RFK Jr. and I agree on, and so everyone's trying to disguise that.
Thank you, Chris. And it's a good advice to use an app. There's handy technology around us and it helps to understand better. We are not going to be well versed in all topics and everything, but that's great just to go through, like trying to look for the ones that are not highly processed. So great advice. Thanks, Chris. And the other topic we want to cover is what role or what's the impact, what impact does light have on our daily lives, and especially like from a mood perspective on depression. That's the topic at hand. So please feel free to let us know what have you found, what works, and how we need to use light on our benefit.
Yes, so light therapy was used by the ancient Greeks, by Hippocrates, to treat various ailments. He would have people sit out in the sun. So it's been used throughout time. And people have observed that you get better both from physical illnesses and mental as you have more sunlight in the day. There's more heart attacks in the wintertime, for example. But it really didn't become well known in psychiatry until 1984. And that's when Norman Rosenthal, if you want to learn more about it, he has a really good book out called Beating How to Beat SAD, that's seasonal affective disorder, Norman Rosenthal. He's the doctor who discovered this. He moved from South Africa, where he grew up, to New York City for medical school. And he discovered that during the fall and winter, he was sluggish and didn't want to do much. Then he went to NIH to do research. He encountered this in patients, and he tried Lightbox, a new invention to treat this kind of depression. Surprisingly, it worked. And it didn't just work. I want everyone to be clear, is I think a lot of people don't believe that it works. I want to be clear about how powerful it is. I told you diet, 2 to 3 times more powerful than generic therapy. Well, Lightbox has been replicated in about 3 dozen trials, and it has what we call a large effect size. That means the effect is big enough that if you'd started light therapy, your neighbors would notice there's something brighten up about you. It's big enough for anyone to see. Antidepressants, in contrast, have a small to medium effect size. So we're talking about a treatment that's potentially more powerful than an antidepressant, and one that addresses a known cause of depression. Light deficiency does cause depression because depression is driven in part by circadian rhythms. If you've had real clinical depression, you know what I mean, because your sleep gets real disrupted, or you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, or you're groggy and dragging during the day. It's like jet lag. Well, it was so powerful that one of my colleagues at the National Institute of Mental Health, where I started my career, he told me, Chris, this is why I learned never to laugh at a scientific discovery. Because when the research came out, he thought it was so bogus that he laughed at it. And he realized as he saw the real results with his own eyes how effective this was. So first, don't dismiss it because it sounds like cuckoo. It's real science, and it really does work. And it's fairly harmless, too. The worst side effects would be eye strain, headache from too much light. And if you have an ocular eye disease, you should talk with your eye doctor before starting it, before getting some diseases are more sensitive to light. Otherwise, a very safe treatment, and you use it early in the morning. So you could just go out and get a lot of sunlight. That's hard to do in our world because we live indoors. That's hard to do if you live in the northern spheres because there's not a lot of sunlight in the morning in the winter. Or you could get they cost $100 to $200 a light box that gives you that big bolus of light. And it needs to be a big bolus to really treat depression. If you don't have depression, you just want to feel better, you might feel better with a little bit of light. But the amount they used in the studies is 10,000 lux. To give you some perspective, in a bright office is 500 lux. So we're talking 20 times brighter than a bright office. You don't notice that when you're under it because, our eyes accommodate quickly to whatever environment we're in. So I have to remind myself that I'm practically sitting under the beach here in the bright sun if I'm under it. And you use it for about an hour in the morning in the wintertime. But a fascinating new discovery of Lightbox is that it also works in the summer for non-seasonal depression. And what that research is telling us, there's about 12 studies of that we're probably all a little deprived of light living indoors, and getting more light is probably good for many people's moods. But the main thing is to do it in the morning. We don't want people using Lightbox at 8 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock at night, where it's going to cause insomnia and potentially flip their circadian rhythm the wrong way, which brings me to the other light discovery. So having treated depression with light, these researchers thought, wait a minute, what if we treat bipolar disorder and insomnia with darkness at night? Makes sense. So they put an ad in the Washington Post, if you have insomnia, come and see us. And they made a pitch dark room by pressing aluminum foil against the windows and getting it all pitch dark. It was a government budget, so they didn't have a lot of money. And these people with insomnia came in They slept in the pitch dark room from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m., and within a week, it cured their insomnia. They then tried that on people with bipolar that had not responded to medications. They know bipolar, they get a lot of insomnia and circadian rhythm problems, and those patients got better as well. But no one is really doing this. You don't go to your psychiatrist and they say, "Have you tried staying in a dark room all night?" Because it's hard to do. So I'll show you a new invention. This came out in the 90s. These are blue light filtering glasses I'm wearing. And what they discovered in the 90s is that we know we have two types of transmitters in our eyes, receptors, rods and cones, for color and black and white vision. They then discovered there's a third receptor that only detects blue light. It doesn't affect how you see, but it tells your brain if it's morning or night. So, what I'm wearing is glasses that are designed to block all blue light. I can still see well. The world looks very warm, kind of fireside, orangey tint. It's very pleasant, and it reduces my anxiety to wear them, actually. It's not as hyper stimulated. But right now, my brain thinks that it's in a pitch dark room. And if I were wearing this 2 hours before bed, which I do, I will sleep deeper and I'll be more refreshed the next day. And I'll have a better, if I'm a night owl, I'll have a better circadian rhythm. If I have bipolar, I'll have less mania. So the recommendation now is they've now done studies of these in bipolar and in sleep is to wear them about 2 hours before bed and sleep in a pitch dark room, so dark that you can't even see your hand. And if you get up and have to move around, wear them again. If you have severe bipolar, we go for the 6 p.m. routine where you put them on earlier in the evening. But you shouldn't put them on in the day like I've done, because that no one wants to be in a dark room during the day. That'll flip your circadian rhythm the wrong way. So a quick 20 to $50 fix there. I'll warn, and there's side effects like weight loss, and against heart disease and diabetes and cancer. So good side effects with it. But I'll warn people, these are very popular, these glasses, and they're making products that don't work because they're easier to wear. And you can't just turn off the blue light on your cell phone. That's not enough. So you want to get a product that blocks 100% of blue light to really make a difference. Those are on my website, and I don't make any profit from these. I just link people to companies that have studied theirs in research. chrisaikenmd.com/dark therapy. Or for light boxes that work, because there we have the same warning, many light boxes on the market. They look good, but they don't work. /light therapy.
Thank you, Chris. And as you were talking and pointing us to how to do it, like the light box, and then the other portion that will be the blue, I don't know the term, blue therapy, or to block the blue light. Those two, I saw you have the specific products as you mentioned, so it's great for anyone interested to learn more and to see like the resources you offer. At least as you mentioned, like pointing to the good ones and then figuring out which one looks best or works best budget wise. That's great to see, and that you have over there available as information and supporting resources for the audience. And also, I noticed you have a book specific that discusses and talks about depression and light, or the impact it has. So I will also invite the audience to take a look, review. I see you have lots of information and supporting information that backs up what you have been discussing with us today, and it's great information that I will obviously take on. And it totally rings a bell when I live more in the northern side of things. So I'm up in Canada, and yeah, when like this time comes, it's so already dark in almost like 6 p.m. It's dark, and it's really depressing at some time. And it's like that's the thing that hits me the most. Like I can get the cold, but that light portion that I'm missing, it totally comes and creates a change. The other thing that you were mentioning that can go a lot to support with the I know different studies and data around in the news and scientific resources is when the time gets changed, there's also a big impact, right? And like, I don't know, there's lots of heart attacks just caused
Mhm.
because we change 1 hour. It sounds easy or not a major thing, but I know it has an impact on our overall health.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the wintertime, we move the light forward in daylight savings. So we actually bring more light into the morning. And it's the deficit of morning light that causes most depression. So actually, in the wintertime, we see patients' depression improve a little bit with daylight savings as they get more light. But then we see the opposite in March when we move the light away and all of a sudden it's darker in the morning. Now, you brought up a good point that you feel more down as you see the sun going down earlier, in the evening. And I felt that way as well. I want to go out and do more and I can't do it. I want to emphasize, though, that it is the morning light that makes the difference in mood. Even if you feel it later at 6 p.m., it's still biologically the deficit in the morning for most people. So you want to have a big bolus in the morning there.
Yes, I agree on that, and probably it's both ways. But for me, I'm an early um, person that I will be awake and do my workout despite the light or not. So maybe that's why
Mhm.
for me it's not a big impact. But yes, overall, like having less light throughout the day, it's something that I believe I don't
Yeah.
like, and it's just from that
So
side
you
of things.
brought up there are a lot of technicalities to light therapy. Dark therapy is fairly easy. Just wear the glasses or be in a pitch dark room. And I have some guides on how to get your room pitch dark. By the way, the studies show even just a nightlight makes a measurable difference in depression. So just a little bit of light, it's amazing how much it affects us. But if you want to do light therapy, go to my website or go to cet.org, and then you'll get more directions. Like they say, if you're a morning person, it's better to turn it on really early, like 5 a.m. If you're a night owl, to turn it on at 8 a.m. So there's more details about how to sit with it, how to use it, how to troubleshoot it all there.
Okay, thank you for those resources you're sharing. We're going to be sharing them as well on the at the bottom of the episode. That way, anyone interested in learning more will have all the information, so they don't have to be rewinding and writing things. So I appreciate your time, Chris. Let us know, like, if you have any final thoughts, comments, or advice to wrap it up. It's more than welcome. And thank you again for sharing with us all this information.
You're welcome. I'll share one more light therapy. Many of you may wisely be thinking, I don't have an hour to spare in the morning. So they do make dawn simulators, which create a virtual sunrise in your room. I have some of those on the website. And there's a handful of studies showing these help depression too. They help people feel more alert, more awake during the day. People use less caffeine and they have fewer problems with addictions. So lots of good benefits from a dawn simulator. It may be the only mental health treatment I know of that works while you're asleep, because it creates that slow rising sunrise to gradually wake you up. I've spent my whole life when I wake up by an alarm, I'm like, "Oh my god, who did this to me? This feels terrible." And now that I'm using one of those, when I wake up, I'm like, "Oh, here I am ready to start the day." Like, I feel better, and that reminds me, if you have children and your school system is forcing them to get up at 6 in the morning, very unnatural, a dawn simulator will help for teens and children as well to get up earlier.
That's a great point when you were mentioning the circadian rhythm and how you can affect it if you do the light box in the evening. I thought, like, when I had my babies, I always got into like these books to read, like how to make them make them sleep better and all this information. And I bought products and whatnot. But that piece you're mentioning right now, I need to go and do it because on my end, I have my phone and it has something that will help me create that
Mm.
dawn set
Oh,
up for
yeah.
light. It's neat, but for my kids, I'm gonna go and get that one because I'm sure every time I go and like it's time to wake up, it's just a battle some days. So thank you for the advice. I'm gonna go look into those ones and get some
Yeah,
for so they can
there's
do
like
better.
$2 phone apps that'll turn on the flashlight on your phone. Better than nothing, but you probably want something brighter. I'll tell you another story. My son was 13. Like a parent, it's hell getting him up for school in the morning. So I got him this thing. And one day I had a frightening experience. I came to his room and he wasn't there. And I'm like, oh my God, where is he? And he was outside on the porch doing his homework in bright spirits at 7 o'clock in the morning, where usually I have to drag him out. It was the first day he used the Dawn simulator, and I had never seen him so cheery in the morning and so active.
Wow, that's an interesting story. So yeah, lots of things that as parents we go through with our children, and great to know there's some specific stories and adventures that will help others take some proactive approach to support their kids. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you,
So we'll
Natalie.
be in touch, and once
Did you
again,
want to did you want to talk about AI, or do you want to wrap up?
yeah, sorry, I forgot. Let's do a quick AI round. Let us know what are your thoughts on AI, how we can adapt it, or what do you see in the near future if you're using it somehow and applying it for what you do.
Yeah, this is something we're all struggling with as we use it and get addicted to it, and it becomes like a new friend. And for many, a therapist. So I just want to share some facts. 50% of people with mental health conditions report using AI, ChatGPT, as their therapist. So that's alarming, because we're also seeing cases of people getting into bad thoughts and bad situations. We're talking about delusional beliefs, suicide, violence, because the AI keeps telling them they have great ideas. And if you're having mental illness, you may not be having great ideas. You may be having very destructive ideas, is the
Yeah,
problem. So they haven't fine tuned it for that yet. But another fact is the difference between open and closed systems. So ChatGPT is an open system, meaning it can learn as it go and do all kinds of things we didn't anticipate it would. A closed system is an AI system that was more created for the purposes and is more designed to work for that purpose, in this case of therapy. So I do believe these will be helpful for people. We already have the first trial out comparing human to AI therapy, and it was a closed system. And the good news is AI therapy did help. Perhaps the better news for people on the human side is that the human therapy did better there.
great insights, and it's also really important to emphasize, yes, that open AI has lots of benefits for our research as we can do for Google, like we're trying to find maybe places nearby or that type of information. But getting advice, that's where we can really fall into a total different situation. It can be a trap. And as you mentioned, someone using it might not have the proper context, the knowledge to get the right advice and support. So I am totally in line with that. Then, if it's a different way we're using it with experts in a close environment and with the right supports and maybe compliance and other things that will fall into play, then we'll be able to benefit from it and provide good support. And as you mentioned, I agree. I think the human insights and the really intricacy of our brains, how they work, it's hard for artificial intelligence to manage. It can support us, but not really take over the real role on what some specific industries or professions can do, especially like in the healthcare space. I do find that's hard to.
Yes, I know another study where it said people don't trust their doctor as much if the doctor's using AI. I get that, but I want to emphasize to be open to that, because we have closed systems, again, closed systems that only look at medical research now. Now, you can guarantee your doctor, no doctor, has read all 3 or 15 million articles that are out there on the medical website. No possible way. The computer can actually read them all and find relevant information. So the greatest use I'm using it as a doctor is really to find information. It's been hard to find stuff. I might have obscure questions like, what happens if I raise the dose to 80 milligrams? And I can't find it's hard to find a paper on 80 milligrams of the dose. So these kind of questions I can ask AI and it'll find the paper for me. I'm still reading the paper and getting the knowledge, but it's a great scout to get out there and find stuff that would have taken me days of research just to find a paper that looks at this kind of question.
Yes, that's a great point you're making. And totally, no one can keep up with the amount of data information that is circulating around, but having the proper filtering and research in place to help and support professionals like yourself makes a difference. So thank you for letting us know how you're applying it, using it, and how it can benefit your practice as well.
Thank you. It's good to talk with you today, Lilia.
Thank you. I appreciate and have a great afternoon. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.